Gamers, what's good? At the time of recording this video, we're under 12 hours away from this new set releasing in Master Duel, including the new Fire Kings, the new Vaalmonica cards, the new Pendulum support, and we're going to be pretty busy in this upcoming week with the Master Duel Central Tournament happening on Sunday, as well as the Duelist Cup starting the day right after. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to make a video that's not necessarily like a guide for these decks, but more so just a quick breakdown of each strategy with like just a linear combo guide for each of the decks, like main combo lines or full combos. But either way, I figured, you know, if you guys are about to get the new cards and you don't want to wait for my deck profile and you just want to jump in and play them, just like a linear combo guide for each of the new decks is probably going to be pretty useful. So in this video, we're going to be covering Vaalmonica, Pure Fire King, and the new Pendulum stuff. I also want to point out, if you guys are more so interested in Fire King Snake Eyes, I already made a video in yugioh Omega showing those decks off. So obviously for this video, I won't be able to play in Master Duel. The cards are not out yet. We're going to be using yugioh Omega yet again. But before we get into all those decks, I have a pretty important reminder for people that were interested in my free tournament. The tournament is still free to enter with $100 prizing for first place, $50 prizing for second place, and $25 prizing for third place. And even if you had registered for the previous date, we closed that challenge and we're opening a new one. So you're going to have to register again. So that's from June 7th at 3 a.m. all the way to June 9th at 10 a.m. where you can register for the tournament. I know it's a short window. Hopefully people are still going to sign up. Again, it's free with prizing. It's going to be a ton of fun. Plus, we'll have the new cards to try out. We'll have the new ban list in effect. The format is going to be totally fresh and it's going to be good practice for the Duelist Cup, which is starting literally the day right after the tournament. So I think everything's lining up pretty nice to have a really cool tournament. I really hope to see you guys in high numbers. So keep an eye out. Tomorrow, there will be a link posted in a community post on the channel. You can also join the Discord, because you'll have to join it anyway to join the tournament. So you might as well join that right now. The link is in the description. Also, quick note, just make sure that your challenge username matches your username on Discord, just to make it a lot easier for us to manage the tournament while it's ongoing. So I'm really going to make sure to keep you guys up to date on the tournament. Again, sorry that I had to postpone it, but I think it's going to make for a better tournament, honestly. So I hope to see you guys in high numbers. But that's it for talking about the tournament. I want to go cover these decks, and I think we're going to start off with Pure Fire King. All right, so here we are in yugioh Omega, starting off with Pure Fire King. And again, this is not a deck profile, so, you know, this is not supposed to be something you look at to figure out what ratios you need for which cards, although it can be a pretty good guide, especially for this list. I'm pretty confident in this list. I think the ratios are good. I think the extra deck is good. So if you do want to build the deck, I mean, I don't think you can really go wrong with copying this list and then just adjusting it to your preference as you test the deck out a little bit. It's also going to give you some valuable information on the ratios you need. For example, you will need one of the OG Garunics for Pure Fire King, probably two of the Sacred Fire King Garunics, definitely 3 Kirin, whether you play it in Snake Eyes or in Fire King. And if the educated guesses are correct, we're getting our Consort. So you're definitely going to want 3 Consort if you're playing the Pure version. You're actually going to need 0 of this card if you're playing the Snake Eyes version. But yeah, all in all, I do think this deck is really, really good. At first, I was kind of underwhelmed by it because I didn't really get it. But as I practiced it more, I realized that this is not like a wombo combo, go crazy, turn 1 kind of deck. In fact, this deck is more so a deck that's kind of slow to get going. But after you get going, like, the grind game is just unrecoverable. Like, your opponent will not recover from the insane grind game that this deck sets up. So I'd like to showcase that. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you a 2-card combo. Well, it's really a 1.5 card combo. So Consort plus any fire monster will basically set up all your plays, and it's really, really good. The grind game is so crazy. So that's what we're going to do here. All right, so here we have our 2-card combo. I'm just using Ash as my target to pop with Volcanics because I don't want to use a card that gets an effect from being popped, just to make sure that it's truly a 1.5 card combo. As you may know, most Fire Kings have procs from being popped. So we're going to go for Consort here, not Ash ourselves. We're just going to pop the Ash, and we're going to grab a legendary Fire King Ponix. At this point, because a card was destroyed, we actually get to a fire card was destroyed, sorry. We actually get to special summon the Ponix from our hand here. So we're going to go, yes, special summon the Ponix. and Ponix on summon will grab a Fire King spell. What we want to grab is our continuous spell here, and this continuous spell is going to allow us to activate our field spell. So we go for the Fire King Sanctuary, set up the island. This also has a nice protection effect for our island if our opponent was to try to destroy it and wipe the whole board for some reason. Either way here, we can go for Fire King Island, and we want to pop the Consort, add the Garunix to our hand. At this point, we'll get 2 triggers. So we'll get the graveyard effect of Consort, which is to special summon the OG Garunix from your deck. And you'll also get the in-hand effect of the Sacred Fire King Garunix, the new one basically, of special summoning itself, just like Ponix does. So we get to special summon that. We get to summon out from the deck the OG Garunix. And here we get to pop a card from our deck using our Sacred Fire King Garunix. So Sacred Fire King, what you want to destroy is the Barong. The reason for that, Barong is going to search during the opponent's standby phase, and then on your opponent's turn, you want to actually bring back Barong and pop it again, and you kind of want to loop your Barong and your Garunix, and that's how you get this kind of crazy grind game engine that just doesn't stop. So we're going to pull out the Barong, just pop it right out of the deck, put it in the graveyard, and you just want to leave it there for this turn. A couple of things we can do at this point in the combo. So one thing you could do is go IP Masquerena, and then you could like use your Ponix to make a Linkuriboh, then use IP plus Linkuriboh to go into Promethean Princess, and just, you know, do an Amblo pass. And then on your opponent's turn, you can actually pop your Amblo and bring back your IP from the grave. So that's an option that you have. Or if you wanted to, since we used our Ash Blossom and we put it in the grave this turn, we could just add it back using the Sunlight Wolf. So in this case, I'm actually going to do the IP line, but I think if I was in ladder, I would do the Sunlight Wolf line, but it's more so because IP is an extra interruption. So I want to kind of show that one. So we're going to go for IP Masquerena here using these two. And at this point, we can use our Ponix to make a Linkuriboh. The reason you make Linkuriboh here is because having a Linkuriboh in the graveyard is really, really good in the grind game, as you can use Linkuriboh to dodge like an Imperm or a Veiler on your Ponix. So it's definitely worth getting Linkuriboh in the grave early. You know what I mean? So at this point, we can just go for Promethean Princess. And you go for Promethean Princess effect. Just make sure to leave the Barong in the grave. You don't want to summon this because it's going to forget that it was destroyed, and you're not going to get a search on the next standby phase. So I'm just going to grab the Ash Blossom from the graveyard here. And with these two, you know, you just go for a good old classic Amblo pass, right? So here we go. Now we can go to end phase, and it doesn't seem like we have a lot, but trust me, we have a lot of pressure because we're going to add a card that allows us to pop Amblo on opponent's turn. When Amblo gets popped, we'll get to special summon the Garunix from our graveyard, and we'll get to do a lot of things. Trust me, okay? So we're going to go to end phase here. And on opponent's turn, in the standby phase, we get to search. So what you want to search with your Barong is the Kirin. And Kirin has a quick effect to destroy a fire monster you control to special summon itself. It can also pop a fire monster from hand, by the way. Pretty important detail there. So we're going to go for this. Fire King. Going to pop our Amblo Whale. Special summon the Kirin. At this point, you can trigger the Amblo Whale in the grave to special summon a Link 3 or lower Link from your grave, which is where you're going to summon out your IP from. So you're going to go for this and target IP Masquerena. And you also get your Garunix effect to special summon itself, and Garunix on summon will get to destroy a fire monster from the deck. So we get the Garunix here, we get the IP Masquerena, we get to go for Garunix effect, and we're not going to chain IP. Instead, what we want to do here is pop the Fire King Arvada from the deck. And the reason you want to pop Arvada is because on turn 3, you'll be able to bring him back from the grave very easily and net yourself a very good monster negate on the field. So definitely nice to have Arvada in the grave there. And also Arvada has the effect, when it's destroyed, to special summon a Fire King from your grave, except it's negated and it gets destroyed in the end phase, which is actually a good thing because that means that when Barong gets destroyed on the end phase, you'll get another search on the next standby phase. And you can kind of see the resource loop that's happening here. So yeah, this is really, really good stuff. I genuinely think this deck is going to be like tier 2 when it comes out. I think it's really, really good. So here we go. Summon out the Barong. All right, perfect. So here's what we have at this point, okay? With our spell here, if our opponent were to ever special summon anything, we would get to use these two and make ourselves a Garunix Eternity, which is our Xyz monster, and this will just destroy every monster on the field, right? So that's one thing we have access to. If we don't need to do that, we could also just use IP to make an Appaloosa, depending on the scenario, or if we're in a mirror match, for example. And it definitely can seem a little underwhelming because it's not like we have like that much interruption. Keep in mind, this was all just a one-card combo, and depending on your hand, you can set up a lot more. I was just showing you what you can do with just a Consort and any fire card in your hand. But obviously, if you have other Fire King Extenders or good Fire Kings to pop with your Consort, you're going to get a lot more than just this. And you can even have an Arvada set up at this point. So at this point, I mean, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let my opponent like just do nothing and pass here, just so I can show you like in end phase when the Baron gets destroyed. We get the Baron destruction. Baron is going to then trigger on our own standby phase and search a card. So, you know, you can search pretty much anything you want. You could search one of your spells. Circle of the Fire King is a really, really good extender. You could search a Ponix, a Consort, a Kirin can be really, really good to search as well. There's really so many things that you can do at this point, so it's hard to list them all off. I guess I'll grab a Kirin. This would be an easy way to just go for game, honestly, if we just grab Kirin here. So what we can do, I'll show you here. We can go like Kirin effect, pop the Kirin on the field to special summon it. And then because Kirin was destroyed, we get to trigger his effect in the grave and like summon Arvada. And at this point, we have a monster negate, so don't have to worry about like a hand trap or anything like that. And also, Kirin's effect of special summoning a monster if it's destroyed also destroys another card on the field after. So you can just use that to like pop the whatever monster you're facing. I should have special summoned the Garunix. I think I forgot to do it. Either way, there's a ton that you can do with this deck. It's really not linear, and I'm going to have to make like a full guide for this at some point. I'm definitely going to make a deck profile for this. So this is more just to like get your toes wet a little bit, dip your toes in the water. I hope this can help at least like until I make a deck profile for it. You have this small resource to help you get accustomed to the deck. But we're going to move on. I want to talk a bit about Vaalmonica. So here we have my very degenerate and most likely not optimal, although I would argue it's quite good build of Vaalmonica. Vaalmonica is a very strange deck, and I don't think this deck is even going to really land at Rogue. I think it's going to be playable, but I think it's better than I was giving it credit for. I think it's like closer to a Memento level deck than it is to like a, you know, a Dino level of playable. I think it's more consistent than Dinos, because at least this deck does have one-card combos. They're not the best one-card combos in the world, but it does have them. What this deck basically does is it turbos out a Snatch Steal with the field spell. You'll get yourself either 2 bounces / back row pops or 2 negates / targeting protections off of your Link monster. And with my crazy build, you'll also get to add a full power super factorial and a Regulus. So I'm going to show you the full line here. Your full combo, best scenario, is Celta in hand plus the field spell. So that's what I'm going to show you. But it's also just going to teach you the linear combo for this deck. Even if you don't have, like, don't run the Mathmech stuff or the crazy Regulus stuff, your straightforward line is still going to look like this anyway. So this is a good guide for whatever build you're playing, honestly. All right, so Vaalmonica. This deck has a really weird gimmick where basically all your normal spells have, I think actually all your spells have 2 effects that you can choose between. One gains life points and one takes 500 damage. And depending on which effect you use, it's going to give a counter to one of your 2 pendulum scales. And when you have 3 resonance counters on either of your pendulum scales, you get to link 1 summon either your Duralume, which is basically a Raigeki, or your Zebufera, which is a card that can quick effect use the effect of either a banished Vaalmonica spell/trap or a Vaalmonica spell/trap that's in the graveyard. So this is usually the one you're going for on turn 1, and then on turn 2 you can actually link summon into Duralume. So that's pretty cool. You get a Raigeki on opponent's turn sometimes. I'm going to show you all the steps though. So we're going to start off with our field spell right here. And again, this is going to be very step by step, not talking too much about like optimal plays or, you know, all that stuff. It's really just to show you the combo line, you know, your high ceiling combo. So field spell, add the regular monster. So that's the Celatris Vaalmonica. And that's basically just like, this is like a crazy card right here. This card is basically a rank 4 on its own. So you can go for Celatris Vaalmonica. And Celatris Vaalmonica, you add the Invitare, which, by the way, I'm running 3. You can probably run 2 of this because you really only want it while you have this card on the field. You pretty much only want it to search it off the Celatris. So we're going to go for the Invitare here. And Invitare, you want to use the second effect because the first effect will lock you into only playing Vaalmonica monsters. So you use the second effect, and what it does is it adds one of your scales to your hand, and it puts the other of your scales face up in your extra deck. So the one you want to add to your hand is always Angelo Vaalmonica. And the one you put in the extra deck is the Demon. So you go for the Angel here, and Angel, you want to use the effect, discard a card from your hand, and scale up both the Angel and the Demon from your deck. So here we have our scales. At this point, you just want to Pendulum summon your Demon into the extra monster zone. And this is where you really start your plays, right? So you can go for Demon effect, banish the Celta from the grave, and what that does is it basically lets you use the pay life points effects of the Celta. So you get to add a Vaalmonica spell/trap from your deck to your hand. You want to add the Disharmonia. Disharmonia adds a resonance counter to one of your scales and then has an effect which will basically basically it ends up adding 2 counters on your field. So you get this card, you activate it. As cost, you get to put a counter, and then you get to choose between taking damage or gaining life points. In this case, you want to gain life points because that adds back the Celta from your banished pile to your hand. So you add that to your hand. And at this point, you want to go for the Celta effect, paying life points, and you get to add a Vaalmonica spellslot trap from your deck to your hand. So definitely say yes to that. Pick which trap you want to use. So you have this trap here, which you'll get to use twice on opponent's turn because of your link monster. This is going to be a monster negate on top of being targeting protection. Or you have this one, which is a monster bounce as well as a back row removal. So I really like this card just because it has applicability for different matchups. So I would probably always shotgun this one, even though a monster negate is really nice. The ability to have a good play both into combo decks and into back row decks, I think is very, very valuable. So I pretty much always grab this one. At this point is when we start doing the degenerate stuff. So I'm just going to tell you right now, if you don't want to do the stupid shit like running Math Mech in here, or, you know, running Regulus and Sargus and, you know, the Merrymaker, you can always just make a Gallant Granite here and searching Nibiru, and after that, because you have your 3 resonance counters on your Demono, you get to special summon. Using your Granite, you'll get to special summon your Zebufera, and that's a totally respectable play, but it's not good enough for me, especially because, like, I find that if I can't get my full setup, I'd much rather have access to at least a full power super factorial, and any rank 4 is a full power super factorial in Yu-Gi-Oh! If you didn't know that, I'm going to show you how right now. So we have our rank 4 here. We already used our normal summon. I'm going to show you all the things step by step. You go Alimbertion, you detach your 2 materials, and you grab Circular, right? At this point, not your demon, I mean your Celatrus will trigger in the grave. Because you control your 2 scales, you get to add it back from grave to hand, which is pretty nice for the grind game. Here you can go for Circular, and you want to dump the Nabla from the deck, special out the Circular. Again, this is like a degenerate version of the deck. I'm not saying this is optimal, but this is what I'm going to do when I play this deck. Here you can go for Alimbertion effect, tribute itself to special summon the Nabla from your graveyard, at which point you get to trigger your Circular, add your super factorial to your hand, and you can go ahead and activate Nabla effect, tributing itself to summon out the Diameter. Now the cool thing here is you also get a Regulus from this because you get another rank 4. So you get to go Springin's Merrymaker using these 2. And from there you can go into your champion Sargus. Sargus will activate and you can add yourself a Therion King Regulus. At this point you want to go into your link 1. So you go into your Zebufera, just like so. And what's nice also is if I got nibbed here, yeah, it would suck, but at least I have super factorial set up. You know what I mean? So, like, if I got nibbed in this combo, well, I mean, we would have probably gotten nibbed earlier, let's be real. Either way, you know, you never know. We're going to go for our Regulus here. We're going to grab our Sargus in the graveyard, and we're going to just put him in the back row, summon out our Regulus. So now we have an Omni Negate here. We'll have another Omni Negate from the Diameter when we go super factorial, and we'll have, you know, up to like 2 to 3 removal depending on how much cards are, well, what kind of cards our opponent is playing. Not to mention that we get a bounce and a back row pop with this card, and this card will be able to use the effect of Followed Rhythm again on opponent's turn. So let's just go to end phase here and see if we can like do a little bit of that stuff. The bot draws, the bot summons a Kozaki, I'm guessing, right? Kozaki or something else. Yeah, it's Kozaki. Okay, so at this point, we could go, let's say, for, well, I just want to show you more so the Val cards. You already know what Super Factorial does, so I'm just going to wait a bit. All right, they're going to end phase. It is what it is. All right, so they didn't do anything. In end phase, we can just go for like the Followed Rhythm. And, you know, we could bounce a card our opponent controls. We can apply both effects because we control this guy right here. And, well, we're not going to destroy a trap on the field. Well, actually, you could. What you could do with this, actually, what I would like doing, if you don't have a spell or trap to destroy, you can pop the Sargus in the back row. The only reason that I would do this is because that way you have more space if you want more back row next turn. It really doesn't serve a purpose in your back row anyway. So yeah, that's something you can do. And then obviously you have super factorial, you know, like which you could have used on opponent's turn to get an extra Omni Negate. You guys know what super factorial does. We're just playing against the bot here. So like, I mean, I'll play it out real quick, I guess, but you guys already know what this card does. So, you know, 1, 2, 3. Whoops, very good. Summon the boy. Laplation, detach 1 in this case because they have no cards. They get a discard, and we have 2 Omni Negates plus those 2 other interruptions. Not to mention, if we activated the effect of Vaalmonica Hallow Heathen, we would gain life points again from the Followed Rhythm, which would move our Vaalmonica up to 3 resonance counters, which would then allow us to use our field spell to get a snatch steal on an opponent. That's an effect on the field spell that we have. Not to mention, also, if they went to battle phase and swung into any of our cards while we have a Vaalmonica and yugioh at 3 resonance counters, this card can then also quick link on your opponent's turn in the battle phase, and you can throw down a Duralume Vaalmonican Heathen Hollow. And what this card does is it's basically going to be a Raigeki on summon. So yeah, I mean, that's a lot of interruption. You're getting like 7 to 8 interruption off of this combo. I don't think this deck is that bad. I think a lot of people are going to be underestimating this deck. Again, not really saying it's going to be rogue. I think it takes a lot to be rogue, but I do feel like it's playable. You know, I think you could see some success in at least ranked ladder using this deck. Maybe not in a tournament, but you know, either way, let's move on. The last one we're going to talk about is a deck I hate talking about, and that would be Pendulums. All right, and last but not least here, we have these new Pendulum cards. It's basically the Zarc support, right? So the new Zarc cards I really like, and again, I'm not a Pendulum fan. I'm really bad at Pendulum. I actually got a lot better in the last 2 days because I actually learned how this deck works, and this deck is a lot more simple and straightforward than a lot of Pendulum decks, which I really appreciate. It's quite linear actually, and another thing I really like about it, as you can see from this list here, it's got a ton of space for hand traps. I mean, what is this? Like, we've got basically 10, 11, 13, 14, 15 plus the staples. Like, this is a really good amount of space for staples. As with most Pendulum decks, this deck sets up a really strong interruption board on turn 1. Turn 2, I'm not exactly sure yet. I haven't tested this enough. So this video, I'm just mostly going to be showing you like the linear combo for turn 1, your full power combo. Your absolute best combo starts off with a Dragon Shrine and a Wings of Light. And what you get to set up, thanks to the Zarc stuff, you have this trap here that will summon your Zarc from the extra deck properly, and you'll get your Zarc effect to wipe the board. So basically you get to set up a Raigeki on top of a Savage Dragon, on top of an IP Masquerena that can be either an SP or an Appaloosa. Like, you get a good amount of interruption with this deck on top of being very linear, very consistent, and having a lot of space for hand traps. So I do think this is a really good Pendulum deck, and a good way to learn Pendulums too if you're interested in learning that. Either way, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to show you the linear combo using these 2 cards here. It's as full power as it gets. I'll just tell you right now, if I do end up building this, which is not super likely because Pendulum is quite expensive if you don't already have like Electromine and Beyond the Pendulum, and now we're getting Exceed the Pendulum as well. My odds of building this are pretty low, but if I do build it, I'm probably going to forego the Soul of the Supreme Celestial King and the Zarc play, and I'm just going to focus on the linearity of the combo. So letting you know that right now, but for the sake of this quick combo showcase, I'll just show you the full power combo, including the Zarc stuff, just to give you a good idea of the linearity and just to show you how the deck plays. So let's get to it. All right, and massive thank you to Moz, by the way, for showing me all these lines, because I didn't know anything about Pendulums 2 days ago, and now I feel like I could actually just play this deck in ladder because he taught me so much about the deck. So we're going to start off here with the Dragon Shrine, and I do want to point out there's a bunch of other good 2-card combos in this deck. This is just the highest ceiling one, so that's why I'm showing the Wings of Light plus Dragon Shrine combo. So start off with your Dragon Shrine here, and we can dump our Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon and also send the Dark Worm. At this point, because you control nothing, you can go for Dark Worm effect in the graveyard and special summon it. So you special summon the Dark Worm. You can use his effect to add the Supreme King Gate. We're just going to call him White Magician. So you add the white to the hand here. And at this point, you can scale up your White Magician. I'm just going to put this on auto. It keeps asking me. I'm annoyed. Okay, here we go. So we scale him up. At this point, we can go for a white effect in the scales. It can basically put itself face up in the extra deck to activate the donut from the deck. So Supreme King Gate 0 going in the scales here. Now we can go for Wings of Light and add the Light Worm to our hand. Light Worm is really cool. On normal summon, it's going to add one of your face up Supreme King cards, like your face up extra deck Supreme King cards, to your hand. So you can go for his effect here on summon, add the Supreme King Gate Magician to your hand, and say no to the Synchro effect here. At this point, you can go for the other effect of Supreme King Gate Magician. You can send a Starving Dragon from your extra deck to the graveyard to special summon him.
So you special summon the boy, you get to use his effect here, and you add your Soul of the Supreme Celestial King. Again, this trap will summon Zarc out of your extra deck. We can talk about this really quickly. On activation, this is going to banish all the materials you need from your extra deck, from your graveyard, from your deck, and from your field. But keep in mind, if you don't use the specific materials you need, you won't get the effects of Zarc. So you want to make sure that when you do activate it, you're banishing the Synchro Dragon, the Xyz Dragon, the Fusion Dragon, and the Pendulum Dragon over here. Specifically those cards to get the effect of Raigeki on Zarc. And when I say Raigeki, I actually mean destroying every single card they control. Zarc is a little bit better than Raigeki. So for your next play here, you're very simply going into Heavy Metal Foes Electromite using the Supreme King Gate and the Dark Worm. So summon Electromite. And you're going to go Electromite effect, of course. You're going to put your Astrograph into the extra deck. If you play Pendulums, you're already familiar with this stuff. You can go for Electromite effect. You actually want to destroy the Lightworm in this case and get the Astrograph Sorcerer back into your hand, at which point you can go for the Astrograph Sorcerer effect. You get to special summon him. And he's going to be able to target your Lightworm and add another copy to your deck. So you target your Lightworm, add another copy. At this point, what you want to do, you can actually just loop this stuff, right? So you can go for a Promethean Princess using your Astrograph and your Electromite. Then you go for Promethean Princess, bring back the Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, and you're going to go for Metal Foes yet again. You're going to go Metal Foes, pop the Promethean Princess, add the Astrograph to your hand, and you can go for the Astrograph effect yet again and add another copy of Supreme King Dragon Lightworm to your hand. So summon him out. We do the effect, target the Lightworm, add the Lightworm. So there we go. We added 2 Lightworms, and we're going to end up with a bunch of cards face up in our extra deck here. So what we can do, at this point, you want to go for Exceed the Pendulum using your Astrograph as well as your Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. That gives you 3 arrows pointing here, which is really, really good. And you also get to add one of your cards that is in your face up extra deck to your hand. So you're going to add the Lightworm to your hand. That lands you with all your Lightworms in your hand now, and you're going to want to scale up one of your Lightworms, of course, to be able to Pendulum Shokan. So here we go, scaling up, not going to chain anything, and we can just go ahead and Pendulum Summon. So you're going to summon everything that you have here, everything that you have access to. 5, Pendulum Summon 5, that feels crazy, but here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, massive Pendulum Shokan going on over here. And at this point, I mean, really, you can do whatever you want, right? Like, you have all these bodies and you're doing what you want. But there's some, you know, guidelines that you're going to want to follow. So for one, you're going to want to go for Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon using your 2 level 7s. Just like so. And then you can use, like, one of your Lightworms and your Absolute Dragon to go into, like, an IP Masquerena, for example. So you go for this. There we go. Here's IP. At this point, you get the effect of Absolute Dragon, and you get to summon out your Vortex. I'll probably put the Vortex right here. Then you can go ahead and make yourself a Savage. So Savage Dragon, very good. We'll put him over here. And Savage Dragon, you're going to want to grab your Promethean Princess because you're not going to have a fire body on the field to pop anyway. So your Promethean Princess is just useless in the grave. Might as well just boost your attack like crazy and get 3 Omni Negates off of him. At this point, what you want to do, you just want to go for Exceed the Pendulum. And you're going to summon out from your grave one of these 2 guys. I would probably just go for the Astrograph Sorcerer because on opponent's turn, when you summon the Supreme King Gate Magician, he's also going to get a search of a spell or trap, which can be very useful. So we're just going to go for our Astrograph here. And Astrograph is going to be your 2500 attack spellcaster that you're going to tribute with your Soul of the Supreme Celestial King in order to summon Zarc, destroy every card on your opponent's field, on top of having 2 Omni Negates and an IP Masquerena that can go into like a 3, well, even a 4 material Appaloosa if you want to, or an SP, right? So it's actually really, really good. So here we go. We set this, and we're just going to pass turn here. At this point, you know, opponent draw phase. Very cool, very neat. They're going to just summon Kozaki again. All right, here it is. Perfect. So at this point, we can just do this stuff. Let's say we go Exceed, right? So Exceed can summon out our Supreme King Gate from the grave. We can use his effect and go grab ourselves one of our Wings of Light, which is a really, really good flash spell searcher, super strong. And in fact, if you control Zarc, it's not only a searcher, but it can also special summon from the deck. If we wanted to, we could go for IP Masquerena. You know, let's say we're playing against like a monster effect intensive deck. We could just go 1, 2, and then 3. Just use these. Make a 3 material Appaloosa. That way we still are able to use this. So, whoops. Okay, it didn't give me the... I forgot that it was not on. Doesn't matter. We'll just do it now. So on opponent's turn, we could have used our Soul of the Supreme King, tribute our Astrograph, summon out the Zarc, using our... You want to make sure to use the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. You just basically, you need their names to end with Fusion Dragon, Synchro Dragon, Xyz Dragon, and Pendulum Dragon. So that's why you're going for these ones specifically. So Crystal Wing. Then from the grave, you want to banish your Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon, and you also want to use your Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. So with all these monsters used, you get to summon a Zarc, and if they had like 5 back row and 5 monsters on the field here, Zarc would destroy all of them. So yeah, that's the idea. Activate a fast card? No. So pop everything and look at all this damage you have on board, right? Like, it's pretty damn crazy. At least going first, I think this is going to be a super solid deck. Wouldn't be surprised if this was like tier 2 when it comes out, unironically. I just think it's such a good combo deck. And going second, the fact that it's so linear and also like has a lot of space for hand traps makes it so it's not going to be nearly as bad at going second as a lot of other Pendulum decks from my experience playing against them, at least. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this Pendulum deck. I also feel like I have a decent understanding of how to play it, which kind of makes me want to try it out. But either way, that's about it for all the deck showcases. I hope this video was useful and I wasn't blabbering too much. I really wanted to post this video earlier, like a day earlier, but I had to do some more learning, especially like because Pendulum and Pure Fire King were a tough nut to crack for me. This one, now that I've learned it, is a lot more simple than I thought it would be. But Pure Fire King, the first time I tried it for like 2 hours, I was just awful at it. I just didn't get it. All in all, though, I'm super excited as usual for the new update. I hope you guys are too. And if you're watching this video the day that it was recorded, you'll be able to join the Master Duel Central Cup tomorrow. So make sure to keep an eye out for that community post or that video. Either way, that's it for me. All right. Peace.